They locked away a 19-year-old lion like he was broken, ready to erase him from the world without a second thought. The new owners of the reserve treated him like outdated inventory, old, useless, no longer worth the space he took up. But one man, the boy who once saved him, returned with nothing but a video and a promise, and the world listened. Wait until you see the moment this forgotten lion stood up again, and how justice roared back in the most unforgettable way. When Joshua Brown was just 19, he didn't just rescue a lion, he found something in that animal he'd never once received from another human being: trust. Born in a small town in Florida, Josh spent most of his early years drifting through the foster care system. He didn't grow up hearing bedtime stories. He didn't wake up to warm pancakes or someone whispering "I love you" from down the hall. Instead, he learned to pack light, to keep quiet, and not to get too attached. But everything changed in 2006, when he landed a rare internship at a wildlife reserve in South Africa, a place called Zuella. It was there, beyond the fences and the whispering grasses, that he first saw the lion. They called him Sebastian, a young cub, maybe a year old, with a bruised eye and a coat that still shimmered like the edge of sunrise. He wasn't the kind of animal tourists came to see. He was smaller, quieter, and sat curled in the corner of his pen like a shadow with a heartbeat. His mother had been lost, taken by poachers, and he'd been found limping along a dried-out riverbed, barely surviving. Most interns did what was required: feedings, cleanings, basic care. But Josh? He did something else. He stayed. He read books out loud through the chain-link fence just to let the lion hear a voice that didn't bark orders. He sat for hours, saying nothing, just breathing near him. He played slow games of peekaboo behind wooden crates until Sebastian's eyes began to follow him with curiosity instead of fear. Once, during a stormy night, Josh fell asleep in the hay just inches from the gate and woke up to find the lion's paw pressed gently against the mesh, as if reaching out in the dark. No one else could touch Sebastian. But Josh? Josh was different. By the time he turned 20, the bond between them had turned into something that felt sacred. Not keeper and animal, but almost brothers, maybe even father and son. But then, the internship ended. His visa expired, and Josh flew back to the States with a heart heavy as stone, swearing to return as soon as he could. He wrote letters to the reserve, asking about Sebastian. He sent donations when he could, but the responses were always the same: sterile, bureaucratic, cold. The animal has been relocated. No direct contact allowed. Interaction with predators prohibited. Years passed. Then, almost 7 years later, a message came from someone who used to work at Zuella. The reserve had been sold. The new owners cut funding and shut down large parts of the sanctuary. Many animals had been moved, but some were simply left behind. Sebastian, they said, was still alive, but caged in one of the back enclosures out of public view, aging in silence. Josh couldn't breathe. The next morning, he quit his job at the local grocery store, sold his old truck, packed a single bag, and without knowing exactly what he'd find on the other side of the world, he boarded a flight to South Africa. When Josh finally arrived at Zuella, nothing looked like the place he remembered. The air was hotter, the laughter louder, the welcome colder. What had once been a quiet sanctuary for recovering wildlife had become a glossy safari attraction, complete with gift shops, air-conditioned jeeps, and brightly painted signs pointing toward lion feedings and giraffe selfies. Security at the gate eyed him with suspicion. He explained why he'd come, told them about the internship, the cub he'd raised, the years he'd spent searching. They shook their heads. Policies had changed. No entry without an appointment, no access to off-exhibit areas. Josh didn't argue. He reached into his backpack and pulled out a handful of weathered photographs. A boy and a lion cub, curled up near a gate. Letters, receipts, emails, all stamped with Zuella's name, and a face, young, sunburned, grinning, beside a lion with a golden mane and a crooked eye. For a long moment, no one moved. Then one of the older guards, a man with a weathered face and kindness buried deep in his expression, stepped forward. He didn't speak. He just nodded once and motioned for Josh to follow. They walked through the manicured part of the park, past laughing tourists, children pointing at zebras, monkeys leaping between trees, and lion habitats that looked more like stage sets than homes. But as they moved farther in, the crowds began to vanish. The colors faded. The air turned still. Eventually, they came to a tall, rusted fence, topped with curling wire. On the other side, a forgotten part of the reserve. Weeds pushed through cracked pavement, trash caught in the wind. Enclosures once built for strength now sagged with rust and time. And in the far corner, something moved. At first, Josh wasn't even sure what he was looking at. It was nothing like the lion he remembered. The proud, fire-hearted creature who once chased butterflies across tall grass now looked like a ghost of himself, fur matted and patchy. His front paw curled unnaturally under him, eyes clouded as if the world had dimmed long ago. But when Josh whispered, "Sebastian," the creature stirred. There was a pause, the kind that stretches across years. Then the lion rose. It wasn't graceful. He staggered as if lifting himself through water, legs trembling beneath him. But step by step, he moved toward the bars, until finally he leaned forward and gently touched his nose to the outstretched hand of the man who once read him books and slept beside his cage. Josh couldn't speak, his throat locked, his lips trembling. But his heart said what words couldn't. Sebastian remembered. The moment hung in the air like a miracle, but it didn't last. Shouts broke the silence. Staff had spotted them through the cameras. Voices crackled over radios. Within minutes, 2 park officials arrived and pulled the guard aside. Josh heard words he couldn't unhear. "This visitor is in violation of protocol." "Unsecured contact with an animal." "This lion is old, unpredictable, unfit for display." And then the sentence that stopped his breath. "He'll be put down before there's an incident." It hit like a blow to the chest. Josh staggered back, staring through the fence as Sebastian, unaware of the threat, blinked slowly at him with eyes full of trust. No, this couldn't be how their story ended. Not after everything. Not like this. Josh knew in that instant that he had one chance. One shot to fight. Or he'd lose the only soul who had ever looked at him like he mattered. Josh didn't beg. He didn't plead behind closed doors. He told the world the truth. With trembling hands, he filmed a single video. Standing outside the rusted cage, voice unsteady, introducing the lion behind the bars. He spoke of a lost boy from Florida and the cub who saved him. About trust, about love, about a bond the world had forgotten. And then, he posted it. The video of an old lion rising just to press his face against the hand of a man he hadn't seen in 10 years. It exploded. 7 million views in 2 days, comments poured in, donations followed. Within a week, Josh had a lawyer, 3 animal protection groups on his side, and enough support to pressure Zuella into releasing Sebastian. The reserve backed down. The world had spoken. Then came the journey. 5 transfers, 7 days, 1 cage, 1 vet. And finally, Denver. Sebastian arrived in Colorado not as a display, but as a survivor. Today, Josh lives near the sanctuary. He volunteers there, not for praise, but to be close to the only soul who never forgot him. Sebastian can't run anymore, but when Josh says his name, the lion stands. Every time. Because real memory, real love, doesn't vanish. It waits, and when it hears the right voice, it answers. Some say lions don't remember. They've never seen a 19-year-old beast rise just to lean into the hand of the boy who gave him hope. Because love doesn't ask us how long it's been. It just comes back, always.